Welcome to another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. It is NFL Week 17. Ian Cameron with you, a solo edition this week. We've had some great guests the last couple of weeks. Trevor Harris 2 weeks ago, Rob Vino last week, but just you and I. A little bit of a short show. Lots going on around the holidays, so we can't go as in-depth with this show as normal, but we will give you every game on the board rapid-fire fashion here for NFL Week 17. Let's just get right into it. We will begin with the first of two games on Saturday that will be taking place. We've got the Houston Texans and the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers 1.5-point home favorites, 35.5 the total in this game. Chargers off a very good win against Dallas. Very impressive offensively. It's amazing to see Justin Herbert still able to play at the level that he has. 23 of 29, 300 passing yards versus Dallas in the victory. Despite the fact he's got a bad throwing left arm, left shoulder, and left hand, I should say. The fact that, of course, he's got an offensive line missing multiple linemen, multiple tackles, and you think at some point this Chargers offensive line is going to have their hands full, and somehow, some way, Herbert and the offense put up enough points, and they keep finding ways to win football games like they have during this 3-game win streak, 4-game win streak now. Las Vegas, Philly, Kansas City, and Dallas. 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread run for the Chargers. Truly remarkable stuff from Justin Herbert during this stretch, considering his left hand injury, considering the offensive line issues. I am concerned about this matchup, though, because when you factor in Kansas City's defense, which declined late in the year, when you factor in Dallas defense, which doesn't generate much pass rush, now you play a Houston team that is as good as it gets with the front seven. It's as good as it gets with pressuring the quarterback. And that Chargers offensive line, which has survived to this point, is going to be put through a much sterner, tougher test here against that Houston defensive front. How will they handle it is going to be the big question going into this game on Saturday. I think when you look at this from the Houston offense side of the equation here, is it going to be challenging again to score? Last week, they struggled with the Raiders. It's going to look bad. People are going to react to it like, what's wrong with Houston? I think they were sleepwalking. I'm not going to really go overboard, worrying about Houston's performance there in that game. The Chargers can get pressure on the quarterback too. So C.J. Stroud, how will he handle that is going to be the question here in this game. The one thing I will point out here is Denzel Perryman. He's a guy that is expected to play here for this game, and because he's returned from injury of late, certainly helps this team against the run. So, when you look at the Houston Texans here, the run game might not be easy to get it going, and they will be under pressure. So, which offense is going to have an easy day of it here? Hard to see who will. So, 39.5 is pretty low, but hard to. That being said, as I say that, last year it was 32-12, Houston beating the Chargers in the AFC wildcard game. What I remember about that game is Justin Herbert getting sacked multiple times by that Houston Texans defensive front. And that was a Chargers offensive line in much better health than they will be for this game. So I could only back the Texans here at plus 1.5. I don't know if I'm going to, but the lean for sure is Houston. It's probably low scoring, but not totally comfortable ever recommending, certainly not betting an under when you're talking about 39.5 being the total indoors as well. But I do think it'll be a tricky day for both teams offensively to move the football. All right, Baltimore and Green Bay, Saturday night. We've got Green Bay 3.5-point home favorites, 38.5 the total. Obviously, this is a battle of backup quarterbacks. We now know that. Snoop Huntley, Tyler Huntley will start for Baltimore. Lamar Jackson's been ruled out. Jordan Love has been ruled out for Green Bay, so Malik Willis will start for the Packers here in this game. This really boils down to which quarterback do you really trust more? Because I think when you look at this situation, yes, Tyler Huntley started. The one thing is Parsons being out for Green Bay means their pass rush is a lot more limited. So will he have more time, to find his receivers down the field, Tyler Huntley? That's going to be the question here. The Packers are excellent against the run, and, you would think they've got a chance here to at least keep Derrick Henry a little bit under wraps, maybe not shut him down entirely, but it is a very good run defense the Packers have. and that could put more of the onus in this game on Tyler Huntley throwing the football here in this game. Malik Willis, obviously, it looks like he's going to play. It's been confirmed already. When you look at Malik Willis against this Ravens defense, though, this Ravens defense continues to be an overrated unit. They don't get much pressure on the quarterback. Their coverage in the secondary has been middling at best. And we certainly saw that last week. Drake May, when he had to make plays throwing the ball against Baltimore, he was able to do it. Why? Because, again, this Ravens defense, time and time again, it's just not getting pass rush when they need it, not stopping receivers down the field from making big plays when they need it as well. Now, they are good against the run. So, again, Josh Jacobs might be neutralized a little bit here in this game, and Emmanuel Wilson, who's been the backup running back, has gotten more run lately for Green Bay. So they may not run the football a ton, but Willis showed he did throw a nice touchdown strike when he entered the game against Chicago last week in place of Jordan Love. If he doesn't get pressured, he showed he could make you pay through the air. So this is a game where, the line move or the movement with this line throughout the week has been, pretty interesting to see. Green Bay opened 3, went all the way up to 4.5, 5, 5.5 once Lamar Jackson was ruled out. And then when Jordan Love was ruled out, it's come back down to 3.5 since the news that Jordan Love wouldn't play and Malik Willis will. I lean Green Bay. I could only back Green Bay at home. I don't trust Baltimore to go on the road, and their playoff hopes pretty much took maybe the down and out hit last week against New England with that loss. They are still alive, but they need to win out, and Pittsburgh's got to lose out for that to happen. And I really don't see that happening. So, like I said, I think it's a situation here where I could only look at Green Bay as a 3.5 point home favorite. Also, Green Bay coming off that heartbreaking, gut-wrenching loss. The one thing I do trust Matt LaFleur to have here is probably a reasonably solid game plan for Malik Willis. And he's had the opportunity probably to get some reps with the first teamers on offense this week, which should help him as he gets ready to make this start. So, like I said, if I had to bet a side, it would be Green Bay here in this game. The Green Bay team total is, 20.5. It's below that key number. I maybe lean in that direction too. I think they could get 21 against this Ravens defense. Well, it's not going to be any rain, no wind Saturday night at Lambeau Field. So if I were to bet Green Bay, I would recommend probably either a split of the spread and the team total over. But that team total over sitting below that key number of 21, that does look a little bit appealing to me, because I think even with Malik Willis at quarterback against this overrated Ravens defense, we could see Green Bay be able to put up 21 plus here on Saturday night on their home field. All right, let's go to Sunday. We've got Arizona, Cincinnati. Cincinnati 7-point home favorites, 53 the total. I'm going to keep this brief. Over the total for me. Yeah, that's the bet. Although I would maybe consider Cincinnati team total over as well in this game. Now, there is a chance of rain, but no wind expected. Team total for Cincinnati's high at 30.5, but I think they could get to 31. We just saw Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals offense last week put up a 45 spot against the Miami Dolphins. They should be capable of getting at least into the 30s here against an Arizona defense that last week they only gave up 26, but it could have been a lot worse. Atlanta kind of stubbed their toe a couple times, or else they could have gotten into the 30s. And then before that, they gave up 40 to Houston, 45 to the Rams, 27 to Jacksonville, 41 to San Francisco. There's definitely potential here for Cincinnati to go over their team total 30.5. And I think the full game over, even though it's high at 53, it could get there. Cincinnati's defense still isn't great, and Jacoby Brissett will keep on throwing the football. And he's been able to at least lead this offense to generate at least enough points in most of these recent Arizona games to get them over the total. So I'd look at maybe Bengals team total over and full game over there. All right, Seattle, Carolina. Seattle 7-point road favorites, 42.5 the total in this game. Look, both teams, big game for both. Seattle trying to win the NFC West. They need to win out in order to do that. And see what happens, obviously, after that with the Rams and the 49ers. 49ers actually control their own destiny for the division right now. But like I said, Seattle's right there as well. So every game of these last two is important for them. Carolina, meanwhile, they're trying to fend off Tampa Bay for first in the NFC South, which they must win that division to get in the playoffs, because only the division winner is getting in the playoffs in that mediocre division. But Carolina's got the edge. Now, Carolina's off that massive division win against Tampa Bay last week. So maybe a little concern for the spot. But the Seahawks are coming off that, very tough gritty comeback win against the Rams last week as well. So both of these teams are off huge division wins. So I think the spots cancel out. Seattle's traveling West Coast to East Coast, early start game. They've actually done okay in these spots. That being said, I remember backing them when they were in this 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kickoff game against Tennessee early on a Sunday, and they didn't cover in that game. I feel it's a few too many points. Carolina's been good in the home underdog role this year. They beat Atlanta as a home dog. They beat Tampa as a home dog. They beat the Rams outright as a 7.5-point home underdog. Only once has Carolina failed to cover as a home underdog this year, and that was against Buffalo when Andy Dalton started at quarterback for the Panthers that day. It wasn't Bryce Young. He was injured. Andy Dalton started, and he was terrible. Not to mention they played Buffalo with Buffalo off a bye week and losing prior to the bye week. So Buffalo was just chomping at the bit, ready to go. So you almost have to throw that one out, that was the only point spread failure for Carolina in the home dog role this year. Like I said, I just don't think Carolina will get blown out here. The Bryce Young, you hope you get the good Bryce Young, and sometimes you can be up one game and down the next. But, I'm impressed with the battle level of this Carolina team. The defense got the key stops when they need it. They got after Baker Mayfield. And if they get after Sam Darnold, and don't forget the left tackle, Charles Cross for Seattle, he's a big deal. He may not play here. And that means that blind side of Sam Darnold is going to be a lot more vulnerable. So I could see maybe the pass rush getting home a little bit more if Cross does not play for the Seahawks. So at the left tackle spot. So I would only look Carolina here plus 7.5. I would look in that direction. Total, big game like this, maybe it stays under, but 42.5, 43, it's in a good spot. I'm not going to say anything here. There's a pass. I don't want anything to do with this. Giants and Raiders. Giants 1.5-point road favorites, 41.5 the total. Yeah, it's a home finale for the Raiders, but who cares? They're a horrible football team. That being said, they did battle last week. And Geno Smith was at least a little bit better, and it was against a pretty good Houston defense. At least there was a little life from the Raiders. The Giants is a road favorite, given what we've seen from them. I'm not that excited about it. They just lost Andrew Thomas, their left tackle, so an offensive line that's declined in recent weeks now is without their best lineman. That's a problem. But then the Raiders, we find out Max Crosby has been shut down for the last 2 games of the Raiders season. He's pissed about it. He's not happy. He's voiced his displeasure about it. And from what all indications, he's kind of walked away from the team. So you've got that locker room dynamic behind the scenes going on. Doesn't make me excited to back the Raiders when you hear that. So these are 2 teams. It's just, the thought of backing either of them, it's ugly. Let's move on. Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Pittsburgh 3-point road favorites, 34.5 the total. I got to admit, if I'm betting this game, it's Cleveland. I've seen this before with Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin. Just when you start getting excited, nice couple wins in a row. It's been a nice little run for the Steelers here, beating Baltimore. They thumped Miami on Monday Night Football. They survive and hang on, and I mean hang on, against the Detroit Lions last week, 29-24. But they've not had an easy time of it in Cleveland. And I cashed a ticket with the Browns last week, plus 10.5 against the Buffalo Bills. I said, I think they're going to compete in this game. They're going to be in it. And they were 23-20 for the Bills last week. Yes, Shedeur Sanders still had 2 interceptions, but I thought he still moved the football, 157 through the air. He ran with it a decent amount of times. The run game got going a little bit for the Browns as well. And the defense made timely stops to give themselves a chance in that game. And if they do that here, I get a weird suspicion. And TJ Watt's already been ruled out for Pittsburgh. So, that's going to negate the pass rush even more. They've had a tough time, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers here in Cleveland over the years. Cleveland, 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread. The last 3 years they've hosted the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Pittsburgh's owned them in Pittsburgh, but Cleveland, the dog pound, this has been a tough place for the Steelers. Don't be shocked if they're in a dogfight here on Sunday. Browns are pass for me. Saints and Titans, we've got New Orleans, 2.5-point road favorites, 39.5 the total here in this one. From a side perspective, Tennessee off the win against Kansas City, how much of that was Tennessee playing better and how much of that was a Kansas City team that was totally disinterested, lacking any energy, intensity, emotionally following getting knocked out of the playoffs. I think it's a little bit of both, but one thing can't be denied. Tennessee has the last 3 weeks, they beat Cleveland, beat Kansas City. They did score 24 points on the road against a good 49ers team. Their offense is certainly improving. Cam Ward's improving. Suddenly a run game, which couldn't do anything, is starting to run the football with Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears starting to have success running the football for the Titans. They should be able to move the football here a little bit against New Orleans. Now, New Orleans is playing better too. 3-0, 3-1 straight up, 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games, beating Tampa, Carolina, thumping the Jets 29-6. Tyler Shuck has given this team a little bit of a jolt offensively, seems to be improving week by week, and every week that Shuck has started, we've seen New Orleans go from scoring 10 points to 17 to 24, 20, 29. I mean, they've just gradually improved offensively each week that Shuck gets more experience and more games under his belt. So I would probably lean Saints here. They're a team I probably trust just a little bit more than Tennessee in this spot. Tennessee off the Kansas City win, but a lot of that was the Chiefs were just down and out, totally, flat as a pancake after their season ended and their consecutive year streak of going to the AFC Championship game ended in the process as well. So I would lean Saints, but I don't think I'm going to get involved in the side. That's just a lean for me. I might bet the total over 39.5, low total. Weather's not going to be that bad in Tennessee. The offenses and quarterbacks on both sides are improving, so maybe that game can get over a low total. Tampa Bay, Miami. Tampa Bay 6-point road favorites, 44.5 the total. I can't bet Tampa. I get it. Miami just gave up 45 points to Cincinnati last week. I get it. They're out, Miami. I get it. Quinn Ewers is at quarterback, rookie. We don't trust him necessarily. But Tampa Bay just can't get out of their own way, whether it's mistakes, whether it's penalties, whether it's Baker Mayfield not being able to make the key plays at the right moment, throwing the interception that ended the game against Carolina, whether it's Todd Bowles with a game plan from the 1980s that simply doesn't work anymore, running the football 50 damn times a game and forgetting that he just got Mike Evans, his big weapon, back, and you have your full slew of receivers healthy again, not letting Baker Mayfield complete plays down the field. Ridiculous game plan last week. Absurd for them against Carolina, and they deserve to lose that game. Not to mention they've been a point spread disaster area. 7 straight non-covers. 0-7 against the spread run for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I can't lay 6 with them. I know Miami's Miami. But Tampa Bay can't get out of their own way right now. And they've lost control of the division and the playoff spot in the NFC South to Carolina. Who knows where their heads are going to be at? It's tough to bet Miami. They've been blown out 2 weeks in a row, and their defense goes back to the sieve it was early in the season, giving up 45 to Burrow and the Bengals last week. But I would lean Dolphins, crazy as it is to say, and that's with Quinn Ewers, who has still got a lot to prove. Quinn Ewers, 20 of 30, 260. The numbers aren't bad, but he had those 2 interceptions, and you can't have that. Devon Achane has been running the football a little bit better, and we've noted during these Tampa struggles how the run defense just hasn't been as good of late either. So we'll see if they can get the run game going. If I had to make a bet, it would be Miami, but I don't have to, and I don't think I will be in this game. All right, Jacksonville, Indianapolis. We've got Jacksonville, 6-point road favorites in this game. The total sitting at 48.5 across the board. This is finally the first. Now, I've been on Jacksonville a lot, and they've been good to me. They've rewarded me. I took Jacksonville the first time they played Indy in Jacksonville. That's the fateful game where Daniel Jones got injured. Riley Leonard had to finish the game, and that's really when the season started to slip away for the Colts. And now they need a miracle. They're not officially eliminated, but they need a miracle to get in the playoffs now after the loss to San Francisco last week. They are now on a 0-5 straight-up slide, 2-3 against the spread in those games. They got drilled 36-19 in Jacksonville. They lose to Seattle, and then, of course, they lose to San Francisco. That being said, Phillip Rivers, Old Man Winter, played a lot better throwing the football against San Francisco. We'll see if that can carry over here into this game. But the problem is the Colts defense. Against any offense with a pulse of late, they've been ripped apart. They gave up 36 to Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville just a few weeks ago in Jacksonville. And, of course, Brock Purdy and the 49ers did anything they wanted against the Colts defense. Now, they will have Sauce Gardner, one of their top corners, back for this game, but still no DeForest Buckner. That hurts along the defensive front. And this Jacksonville offense is rolling. I mean, 6 straight wins, and they've scored at least 25 in all 6 games. In fact, they've scored 27-plus in 5 of those 6 games. They are feeling it. Trevor Lawrence finding, Travis Etienne running the ball. Brenton Strange is a tight end that's given them a lot of good play of late as well. I mean, they are just cooking right now offensively. Like I said, don't sleep on Parker Washington. They found Jacoby Myers since he arrived in Jacksonville. He's given them another weapon. Brian Thomas is healthy again. Suddenly they have a lot of weapons, and they got a quarterback playing with great confidence. And Trevor Lawrence, a willing runner. He's willing to run with the football when he has to as well. I don't think the number's great. I don't think the spot's great for Jacksonville. Another road game. They already beat Indy big. Indy's backs are against the wall, and they did play hard against San Francisco, but the problem at the end of the day is, do you trust Indy to get stops? Because even though they're getting 6 points, they need to make stops if they're going to cover this number, and I'm not sure they will against Jacksonville. I could see Indy moving the football, though, at home against Jacksonville's defense, which has played well lately, but, Phillip Rivers, give him credit. He was able to make plays, found his receivers. I could see him doing enough offensively to push this game over the total. That's where I'm at. I like the over rather than either side. I'm not going to take Jacksonville in this spot. I cashed with them against Indy. I cashed with them against Denver last week. I'm going to say thank you for the winners. I don't love the spot nor the price with Jacksonville this particular game, but I like this over. 3 straight overs for Jacksonville, 4 of their last 5. This has been an over series between these two teams. 6 straight overs between the Jaguars and the Colts in head-to-head matchups between these division rivals, including the 55 points earlier this season in Jacksonville between these two teams. And that was the game Daniel Jones got hurt and left the game early. And that game still ended up with 55 points. So over is the look for me here, Jaguars and Colts. All right, Patriots, Jets. We've got New England 13.5-point road favorites, 43. I'm not probably going to be involved here. I mean, this is just not the spot where I'm comfortable laying 13.5 with New England. A big resounding comeback win against Baltimore on Sunday Night Football to put them in the driver's seat to win the AFC East. And look, they're still battling Denver for the number 1 seed in the AFC. So still a lot on the line for New England, but 13.5 on the road. I don't think I'm going to get involved. Don't want to back the Jets either, obviously. They're down to a rookie quarterback, Brady Cook, starting under center for them. They only scored 6 points against the Saints, losing 29-6 last week on the road. 0-3 against the spread their last 3 games. I mean, it's Patriots or pass, but I don't know. I just don't feel don't. And here's the thing, too, with this spread. Last time Patriots and Jets played, Jets covered the closing number. They were getting 13.5. New England won by 13, 27-24. And that was in New England. And I remember that game. The Patriots were playing with their food. Patriots were kind of lollygagging, letting the Jets hang around a little bit in that game back in November. It's another reason why I'm not, bullish and running to lay the points here with the Patriots in this spot. All right, Philadelphia, Buffalo. Buffalo 1-point home favorites, 44 the total. Eagles have wrapped up the NFC East. They're pretty much wrapped up into clinched. They're probably going to be the 4 seed in the NFC playoff picture right now. So when you look at this situation, Philly's not got a ton on the line. Buffalo's playing for positioning. They're probably not going to win the division, and I think they know it. So it's really which team's going to treat this game with more focus is going to be a big determining factor. I don't know if I'll be getting involved in this game. I'm personally of the belief that even though the Eagles beat Washington last week, and the Raiders the week before that, that's not a sign they're fully back on track. Let's not forget those are bad teams, and let's not forget that in the Washington game, that Washington was leading 10-7 when Marcus Mariota got hurt. And then Josh Johnson came in, and that's when things fell apart for the Commanders, and the Eagles pulled away. So I'm still not comfortable back in Philly here. I still don't think they're fully right. I don't think Lane Johnson's going to play on the offensive line. We'll see about Jalen Carter, but he's been absent the last couple games on the defensive front for the Eagles. So there's some concerns here with Philly. It would be Buffalo if I had to, but I don't know if I'm going to be betting the Bills here. But I'll tell you what, 1.5 with the Bills at home does feel cheap. And I know I'd rather have the Bills at this number in this spot than the Eagles. My one concern for the Bills is their focus, knowing that they're probably locked into a 4-5 seed type of situation in the AFC. Unlikely they're going to win the division with the Patriots facing the Jets and the Dolphins to finish the season. And the run defense, too, for Buffalo, which continues to be a problem. It just does. I mean, every team is running the football against the Bills. And with Saquon Barkley finally revving up the engine a little bit in the second half against Washington last week, that does remain a concern that maybe Barkley has success and does some damage against that leaky Buffalo Bills run defense. All right, Sunday Night Football, Chicago Bears, San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco 3-point favorites, 44. Not 44, that's a misprint. 52, and if it was 44, I'd be unloading on this over. 52.5 is the total. I still like the over. I think the Bears are going to move. The San Francisco defense is still pretty leaky. We saw that. Phillip Rivers and the Colts were able to move the football for a good chunk of that game. But this 49ers offense, man, they are feeling it. And right now we see that Brock Purdy having a lot of success finding his receivers down the field. Christian McCaffrey looks healthy, and he's been active, and he's been strong of late. This offensive line, which was going through some issues, they've started to play a lot better as far as run blocking and pass protecting, and that helps. Plus, of course, you've got Kyle Shanahan doing a great job, preparing this offense on a weekly basis. Now, the problem here for San Francisco, well, both of these teams are off huge division wins. Chicago in that incredible comeback win against Green Bay last Saturday night to give themselves the upper hand to win the NFC North. San Francisco with the win against Indianapolis. But it might be a worse spot for San Francisco because they're traveling back from Indianapolis to the West Coast on a short week after Monday night. So not easy. And now we see that George Kittle and Ricky Pearsall have actually showed up on the injury report. Now, this doesn't mean they're automatically not going to play, but they are both questionable for this game. So that could impact the total a bit. I still could only look over with these two offenses. I think Chicago moves it on San Francisco, and I think the 49ers offense can move it on the Bears defense. But I'm at the current number, which is 3, and I'm seeing a couple 3.5s out there. At the current number, it's Chicago or pass. I do think the Bears continue to be undervalued. People look at them as, a team where their statistics aren't as good as their record. They look at them as a team living off turnovers. And yes, some of that's true. But sometimes teams are just good at forcing turnovers. Sometimes there's an art to it. A lot of bettors out there in the NFL, if a team's turnover margin is way too high, they'll just say, oh, this can't continue, and bet against it. Well, sometimes no. You just know how to force turnovers, and you're good at it. And sometimes, it never corrects during the course of a season to the extent people think. People think, oh, turnover regression. Doesn't always happen. And Chicago's very, very good in the ball hawking department of their defense, forcing turnovers. So Bears over leans for me on Sunday Night Football. All right, Monday Night Football, last game, Rams and Falcons. We've got the Rams, 8.5 point road favorites. The total 49.5 here in this game. I don't know if the Falcons are slowing down Matt Stafford and the Rams offense. You got a Rams offense, too, off a Thursday night heartbreaker, losing to the Seahawks, losing control of the NFC West division in the process, off that kind of loss, chomping at the bit to bounce back, and an Atlanta defense I don't trust. I think Matthew Stafford and the Rams offense should have success here against an Atlanta defense that we know when they've played some of the better offenses this year, they have had their struggles getting stops. You look at Atlanta's results this year, they give up 28 to Tampa, 37 to Seattle, 30 to Carolina, 31 to Indy, 34 to Miami, 24 to New England. You catch my drift. There's been some bad defensive showings here for Atlanta, and this could be an offense as good or better than any that they faced this year. I like the Rams team total here. Over 29.5 is what we're seeing with that. I think you could split it with the full game over 49.5 because I do think Kirk Cousins, Bijan Robinson, and company can move the football here. Drake London just came back last week from injury. He's questionable for this game, limited in practice, but I have a feeling he's going to play. Now, Kyle Pitts has showed up on the injury report as a limited participant. It looks like he may have suffered a practice injury as well. So his status is a lot more murky for this game, and that's unfortunate because Kyle Pitts has played well lately for the Falcons. But if London and or Pitts both play, I could see Cousins and the Falcons moving the ball a bit too. Because let's be honest, this Rams defense has not been as good the last few weeks. They give up 31 in the loss to Carolina, 17 to Arizona, 34 to Detroit. And Detroit's offense hasn't been great the last 2 weeks. Again, their losses to Pittsburgh and the stunning loss to Minnesota, where the offense couldn't get out of their own way for the Lions. The Rams gave up 34 to that Lions team. And then 38 last week to Darnold and couldn't get a stop in the fourth quarter with the game on the line. So this hasn't been as good of a Ram defense of late. So I think the door's open for the Falcons to contribute as well. 4 straight Rams games have gone over the total. So I would look at that over 49.5 here and maybe split it up with the Rams team total as well at 29.5 to go over. All right, there you have it. NFL football, Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy, your NFL Week 17 preview. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. And let's wrap things up with Best Bet for this edition of the show. And for Best Bet for this edition of the show, let's see here. I'm going to give you one side and one total is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you Cleveland. Yes, that's right. The Cleveland Browns. There's still a couple 3.5s out there. With plus 3.5s, minus 120 is out there with Cleveland. I'm going to give you Cleveland plus 3.5, minus 120. There's a part of me that still does not trust Pittsburgh. And they've had a tough time in Cleveland. Cleveland's won and covered 3 straight, hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that's a ball game. And that's a game that comes down to the wire. I'll look to Cleveland there, plus 3.5 against Pittsburgh. And my totals best bet will be Jacksonville, Indianapolis, over 48.5. I think we see that game go over the total. 6 straight overs in the division series, in the series between those two division rivals. So Cleveland plus 3.5, Jacksonville, Indy over 48.5 for best bets for this edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. I'm Ian Cameron. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll see you again next week for another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy.